We're recording now. Alright. Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Wes. He is our veteran of the month that I am interviewing. Um, Wes has been on our board since 2018, and if you didn't know, he is planning to retire at the end of this month. He currently serves as our quartermaster. Wes served in the Air Force, and so we're gonna chat with him today about all of his background in the military and all of his deepest, darkest secrets that you probably have never heard before. All right, Wes, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you.
Good. So, to start out, can you just share with everyone what like the day you enlisted, the story behind it, why did you enlist? You know, what led to that moment and how did it feel?
I joined in 1980, actually.
I wasn't even born yet.
Sorry. The reason I joined because I just knew we were going to go to war with Iran over the Iran hostage situation.
Right.
And I didn't want to be told what branch I had to go into. So I tried to join the Navy, but I was married and had 2 kids. So the Navy said, we can't take you. I said, well, then screw you. I'll go down and join the Air Force.
So they were worried about you falling off the boat, but they weren't worried about you with
Yeah.
explosives.
Well, that's the reason I did what I did in the Air Force. But yeah, the Navy didn't want me because I was married. They didn't like married and married parents, I guess,
right.
being in
Yeah.
the Navy at the time. Which is now no big deal, but that was 1980.
Yeah. How did your wife react when you told her you were going to join?
She didn't think I was really going to do it.
She was probably like, "Oh, I hope so. I'll go away."
That's the reason she was the first wife.
All right, so you enlisted and then you had to go to basic training and everything.
Yeah, I went to basic training in San Antonio, Texas,
All right.
at Lackland Air Force Base, which is where 99% of all Air Force personnel go to basic. Because they used to have one in the Philippines at Clark Air Force
Okay.
Base. But they closed that down long before I got in. In fact, that's where my father went to basic training
Okay.
when he was in the Air Force.
So what was basic training like? Did you have a like, I don't think I can do this moment or
I was grandpa in basic training. 20 years old and I was grandpa because I was married and had 2 kids.
right? Yeah, all the young guys are yeah.
Yeah, well, they were all 18 and
Yeah. So after basic training, how long before or I guess well what did you train in? Let's start there.
when I first went in, went in to be a cop.
Sorry.
Actually, I was going to be, and I was a missile cop in
Okay.
Montana. I did that for the first 2.5 years. And then I was having medical issues. So the SAC took me out of being a cop and made me a heating system specialist. And throughout my active duty career, which was only 6 years, I was never on a base that had aircraft.
Okay.
Everything that I worked on was missiles, either ICBMs or ground launch cruise missiles. My last year in or on active duty, I was sent to Comiso, Sicily. We were building a new ground launch cruise missile base there. And the vehicle for the cruise missile was already like 8 times bigger than any of the roads in Sicily. So we were knocking down signs and getting in trouble all the time. Sicilians didn't like us.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you like them?
oh, after the first 30 days in Sicily, I loved it.
Yeah.
Once I really realized where I was at in history with
Yeah.
World War II and everything.
Yeah.
Because I was in the second wave in Comiso, and Patton had landed in Gela, which is where I went to when I first got there. And my first night in country, the communists blew up a car out in front of our hotel to say hi.
Yeah.
And when I was there, most of the mayors and stuff of the towns around Comiso were Soviets,
Yeah.
communists. So yeah, it was fun. But after I realized where I was at historically, I had a ball
Yeah.
because they're old churches and there's still an awful lot of the countryside that still looks like a battleground.
Right.
Buildings with bullet holes and all that kind of stuff. And what they would do is if the top floor got shot up really bad with 50 cal rounds, they would just sure up the floor and then move downstairs and live down in the second and first floors. So it was very interesting when I was there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you said that was your last deployment?
that was my last on active duty.
Okay. Okay. What was your first?
Uh, was sent to Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, and all my friends wanted to know what part of the world that was in. Nobody had heard about Montana, the fourth largest state in the Union.
I've been to Montana. It is definitely its own unique
Yeah, it's a little backwoods.
yeah, yeah. So where was like your favorite place that you got to travel? Was Sicily be it or
No, because actually I got off active duty, and when I got off active duty, I joined the Air Guard right away.
okay.
And I was fortunate enough with the Air Guard to travel um, pretty much around the world.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. Of course, I didn't really want to go to Sandland as many times as I did, but
Right.
you know, sand's pretty too if you're in Saudi Arabia, because at least there it's red.
Right. Still really hot though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what would you say is like your greatest accomplishment or looking back on your military experience? Can you narrow that down or
Well,
and it can be your contribution to the military or even just like how the best thing that it did for you and personally.
Oh,
You can answer that either way.
I got bored a lot. I had basically 7 jobs in the Air Force. I was a cop. I was a heating system specialist on active duty. When I first got into the Air National Guard, I was a crew chief on F4s. Moved to Texas, got out of the Guard. When I got back into the Guard, about 3 years later, I joined as an ejection seat mechanic. I got into egress. And I did that for 17 years.
What does that mean? Ejection seat?
ejection seats for the fighters.
Okay.
It's actually the only system on the aircraft designed just to save the pilot's life,
Okay.
providing that he doesn't try to fight the plane all the way to the ground.
Right.
But and that's probably the hardest thing to get those monkeys to do, is to pull that D-ring.
Right. To just let it,
Because
yeah.
they think they can,
To
they
give it, yeah.
think they can control the plane all
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
And then I tried to get a full-time job at the base there in Willow Grove. I did 10 years at Willow Grove in the
Okay.
Guard, and I did 10 years in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the 122nd, which was, we started out with F4s and then switched over to F16s. And then when I moved out here to Pennsylvania, I was working A10s at Willow Grove. And that was fun. But then I tried to get a full-time job up at Willow Grove, and I became superintendent for life support, which is the office that basically takes care of the pilots themselves.
Okay.
They help them dress and and pack the survival kit and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's another piece to the seat,
Okay.
because there's actually 3 shops that deal with the ejection seat. You have egress, and then you have life support, which the pilot, and then you have the parachute shop.
Right.
And so I was a superintendent for life support for about a year and a half, and then I got the job as shop chief for the parachute shop.
Okay.
So I had to go back to school to learn to pack and sew parachutes.
Did you have to test them too, or?
Now,
Okay.
they're a one-time good deal.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's like the ejection seat.
Yeah.
You
I
cannot
know.
test it. You can mechanically test it, but you can't test
Yeah,
the
no,
explosives.
I know.
And then I got bored with that and got a job upstairs at the base in plans and scheduling, which was my last job.
That sounds really boring.
That was a 90-mile-an-hour-a-day job,
Okay.
literally. We had 17 aircraft at Willow
Well,
Grove,
yeah.
and I was in charge of scheduling all the inspections,
Okay.
time change items, working the aircraft into what they call a phase schedule. Because every 500 hours, the aircraft has to have an inspection,
Right.
and major phase in the field
Right.
usually takes about a month, because they strip everything down and take a look at it. Then every 10,000 hours, it goes to major phase, which is usually out west, and what they call depot level.
Okay.
And they really take the plane apart. And at that time, they usually x-ray most of the skin and the frame of the aircraft. So that's why they call it major depot.
Right.
So I was, as a scheduler, I was trying to work the aircraft into that schedule,
Right.
to fly the hours off of them, to get them down to their inspection or phase hours.
Right.
And at one point, I could tell you within a few hours on each aircraft, all 17 of them, what, like the gun change or the 36-month inspection on the ejection seat, I could tell you within a few hours on just about every aircraft sitting at Willow Grove.
Yeah. Did you like that job a lot? It
Uh,
seems like that probably didn't, you didn't get bored of that too quick.
that I love. That
Yeah.
I really like.
I like a lot of different projects. So I like as a project manager, that was my last job. I
It
like,
kept me
yeah,
very busy. Like I
yeah.
said,
And the challenge of it, like,
it was a
yeah,
90-mile-an-hour-a-day
yeah,
job. And when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, of course, that is a disqualifying factor in the Air Force.
right.
They told me to take my ball and go home. I didn't play well with others anymore.
So now you have to come here and play with us,
Yeah.
huh?
But at least here I have alcohol to play with.
Yeah, that's true. It makes everyone more likable, right?
Yeah, sometimes, as long as it's beer and not that dark whiskey, because then
Yeah,
I become an asshole.
not you. I think we may have drank whiskey together before.
Um,
All right. So, what, I have a, off base, question for you.
uh-oh.
Um, what's your best like off duty and out with the boys story that you can share with us that, won't jeopardize the integrity of
I, I think the statute of limitations is up on most of this.
Okay, well, good.
We weren't allowed to drink over there,
Oh,
the Americans. Now, the Danes, the British, the Germans, they all brought their booze, but not the United States. But we found ways around that. We would sneak it in. And so for January 1st of 2003, we had our own celebration in the tents. And all of our area with the tents, they had like number 8 rock, which are about 2.5, 3 inches in diameter. Very hard to walk on when you're sober, much less drunk. But yeah, we snuck our alcohol around.
yeah.
Had a good time.
You still keep in touch with some of the guys that you served with?
Um, yeah, actually I do. I've got a couple of friends that are now around. I got one that lives in Tennessee, who he is actually in the VFW
Okay,
as he was a quartermaster, now he's a commander.
okay.
Um, and he was a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. We met each other in Kuwait in 1997, I believe it was 98, and became very good friends. And yeah, I still keep in touch with some of them.
Yeah,
Not a lot, but a few of them.
yeah. So how many years total then did you serve?
I did a grand total of 26 years.
Right.
I had 6 years active and then 20 years in the Air.
Okay.
So I'm retired. I had to wait until I was 60 to start collecting that retirement, but hey, it happens.
Yeah, yeah. So, what year did you retire?
2009.
Okay. So you've been living the good life since then, right? Taking
Uh,
it easy.
yeah, that's the reason I work here for free.
Yeah, right.
Taking it easy.
So what are you gonna do when you leave us? What's your plan? I mean, you're still gonna be here every day, right?
I don't know that I'll be here every day, but I will be here several times throughout the week
Yeah,
because a lot of my friends want to know if I'm going to be hanging around.
yeah,
And
yeah.
naturally. Uh, but I will be sleeping later.
right? Sleep in. What is like, what do you think that the VFW provides for you? And what, what would advice would you give to like young soldiers like coming out now and, why would you encourage them to join this organization?
Well, I might be a little biased, but I think the VFW is one of the best. I was an officer in the American Legion in New Holland for about 8 years. I was adjutant for the post and also district, which included 13 posts. And I was doing that at the same time that I was working here as I started out as the junior vice commander, and then our adjutant at the time ran into issues, so I raised my hand again and I took that on. So I've been the adjutant and the quartermaster pretty much for the last 4.5, 5 years. And the reason I can do that is because you can be in an elected position and you can be in an appointed position.
Okay.
And my elected position is quartermaster, and my appointed position was adjutant. Note taker, secretary, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you think you'd like to say or share with everyone?
Just come out and enjoy the club. We do an awful lot of a lot of people think that the VFW is just a bar. And that is so far off base. We raise a ton of money and do an awful lot of work for veterans families. It's amazing the amount of money that we do raise to help
Yeah, absolutely.
the hospitals, VA hospitals, both Lebanon and Coatesville. And most of us in here, we take this job very seriously. And it's a very important job. It's a lot of fun to sit around and drink,
For a good cause.
but it's also a lot of fun to see what good we do in the community, especially like with the auxiliary, because
Yeah.
those ladies work their tails
Yeah, they
off,
do.
and they do tremendous work for the veterans and the hospitals.
Yeah.
So it's not just a place to play bingo or drink beer, although those are the fun things.
Yeah. All right, Wes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for your service at the VFW and of course for our country.
Thank you, Lenay.
I'm gonna give you a hug.
Oh, thank you, dear.